Thank you guys for inviting me to speak today. I'm so excited to share with you about our work to update the Green New York specifications, as well as giving you a few examples of how we're addressing toxic chemicals in them. As they mentioned, my name is Delaney Demro. I am a project manager with the Center for Sustainable Materials Management, and we're located in Syracuse, New York. So before jumping into the details, I wanted to share a little bit about the project that we're currently working on. So this work is being led by the Green New York Council Procurement Working Group, which is headed by Pam Haddad-Hurst, the Special Assistant to the Commissioner at the Department of Environmental Conservation. Jessica Watson, a contract management specialist focusing on green procurement with the Office of General Services, and Alexandra Leader, a sustainability program manager at the New York Power Authority. So here at CSMM, we were tasked by the Green New York Procurement Working Group leads to update the Green New York specifications. So a little bit more about CSMM. We are funded by an Environmental Protection Fund grant that is administered through the Department of Environmental Conservation. And we're located at the SUNY College of Environmental Science and Forestry, or ESF, in Syracuse. So we were very excited to be tasked with this project because it aligns very closely with our mission to challenge the concept of waste and, all of the side effects that come with that waste through reimagining how we procure, produce, consume, manage, and market materials. So the entire life cycle of products, really. And we're working in close partnership with the Responsible Purchasing Network, which is headed by Alicia Culver. RPN is an international network and a nonprofit with more than 30 years of experience providing guidance on socially responsible and environmentally sustainable purchasing. So with that background aside, I wanted to talk a little bit about what green procurement means and looks like in New York State and why it's important for state agencies to buy green products. So the New York State as a whole is one of the largest economies, not only in the US, but in the world. But looking at state entities, there is an average of about $6 billion spent each year on goods and services annually. Currently, the green spend in New York is relatively low, but we are hoping that through updating the specifications, we'll see a increase in that. And as you all know, since you all work in this space, the benefits of buying environmentally profitable products is to protect the natural world and human health. And we do so through decreasing the use and exposure to toxic and hazardous substances, preventing and reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and lowering resource consumption, and therefore waste generation. And by buying green, we can promote economic benefits like cost savings and social well-being, like increasing institutional and agency resiliency to the changing market, as well as the opportunity to signal to the market that these environmentally preferable products and attributes are things that New York State is looking for and wants to see more of. So the Green New York specifications came out of the Executive Order 4, which has now been superseded with Executive Order 22, which is the directive for state agencies to adopt sustainability and a decarbonization program. And this applies to the 75 affected state entities, which includes divisions, departments, authorities, and offices across New York State. And it is led by the Division of Budget, Office of General Services, Environmental Conservation Department, the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, and the New York Power Authority. But its general membership includes a whole suite of state entities as well that are all working together to encourage each other to adopt green purchasing specifications and practices. So Executive Order 22 has a full suite of priorities, not just focused on green purchasing, but as you can see, these all do go hand in hand with the products that we buy and the effects of how we use them and dispose of them. And so I just wanted to share kind of what the full scope of that executive order looks like. All right. So I also wanted to give an update on, what the project currently looks like and the purpose behind it of why we're updating the Green New York specifications. Ultimately, we're striving to improve specification usability for purchasers and contract managers. We're doing so by standardizing the specification format, because beforehand, the specifications would kind of follow different formats, or there would be a lot of, details up front with the actual criteria further down at the bottom. So it was a little hard for purchasers to know what the actual requirements were and where to look. We're also working to modernize any out-of-date specifications to make sure that the criteria that we're listing are reflective of what's currently available on the market, as well as increasing the utilization of third-party product certifications. By doing so, we're taking the onus off of the purchaser to identify products that meet a full suite of criteria, including toxics and things like that, because they are being independently verified by these third parties. We're also working to ensure that these specifications align with state and national policies. By doing so, purchasers at state entities will know that there aren't any issues with the products that they are purchasing and using, as well as making sure that these criteria and requirements set in state and national regulations are either reflected directly in the specification, or we provide additional contract language so it can be addressed by the vendor during the bid process. So as I mentioned, the specifications beforehand kind of followed different formats, and so we really wanted to streamline it. And so our specs follow the same format for every different product or service type. At the very top, we include a list of covered products and exclusions. Like for example, let's say we have a specification for napkins, but we want to focus just on paper napkins. In the exclusions, we would have like reusable cloth napkins or things like that. Then in the specification immediately following the scope, we want to put this details right up front. We put the minimum requirements, which are the criteria that a product must meet to be considered Green New York compliant. The criteria that we set here are things that the purchaser can easily identify and verify when they are making their product selections. And then in the additional desirable attributes, these are not required to be considered Green New York compliant, but these are attributes that are either just starting to become available on the market, or are things that we want to signal to the market that we're looking for, or to kind of take some of the criteria in the minimum requirements a step further. And to help the purchasers and contract managers, we do include a list of policies that a product meeting the minimum requirements is compliant with. So there's really no questions there. And on a separate page, we link to a description of each of the policies addressed in the specifications if someone wants to learn more. Then, as I mentioned before, directly in the specification page, we do include sample contract language that a contract manager can use when going out to bid to address some of the more tedious or very detail specific criteria that are either outlined in policies or something that the state is looking for. We also include a list of definitions to kind of clarify any potentially confusing terms in the specification. And we also provide a link to a separate page that has a description of the third-party certifications and standards, again, if they want to learn more there. And we also include product-specific resources if there is any other additional information or details that could be useful to a purchaser. So we have a standard approach to update each of the specifications. And to do so, we perform a benchmarking assessment right up front to see what criteria for that product or service has been set in other states or major cities so that we can align with them. We also perform a market assessment to identify how many products are available on the market that meet the proposed criteria that we've developed, as well as seeing if the cost for these environmentally preferable products is significantly different from the traditional, less green products. We also review the New York State sales data to see what New York State purchasers are currently buying, as well as seeing if there are products that are currently on state contracts that meet the proposed criteria. Then, kind of as I mentioned before, we do a review of the certifications, going through all of the technical details and standards for those third-party certifications to see where there is alignment with state policies and state goals and things like that. And one of the most important pieces for this is the stakeholder engagement. Before bringing any of the specifications to the Green New York Council, we set out an open invite for any state agency staff to attend and provide feedback on the specifications, because as the product users, we want to know that the specification makes sense to them and it is something that they see as usable for those types of products. So a little bit of a progress update on this project. So the project began back in June of last year, and we're working to update over 100 of the Green New York specifications. And so far to date, we have received final approval from the Green New York Council on 29 products. And so this includes a full suite of cleaning products, like anything from general purpose cleaners to more specialty cleaners, like odor control products or metal cleaners, as well as dishwashing detergents and laundry detergents. Some of the other specifications that have been approved to date include some janitorial equipment and supplies, like vacuum cleaners, trash bags, and disposable gloves, paper products, including paper napkins and office paper products. And we've also received approval on a couple of electronics, like computers and imaging equipment or printers, as well as some facilities and grounds products like lower carbon concrete and prepackaged de-icers. All right, getting into the focus of what I came here to talk to you guys all about today. I am excited to give you some examples of how we're addressing toxic chemicals and hazardous substances in the Green New York specifications. So just a high-level overview of kind of some of the key substances that we are working to target and reduce or eliminate. This includes, things like heavy metals, flame retardants, PFAS, and polyvinyl chloride or PVC, as these are all known carcinogens or endocrine disruptors and also can have reproductive and developmental issues when exposed to them. So to reduce the toxics in the specifications, we go through and identify any applicable policies. If there is something specific for that product category, product type, we want to make sure it's addressed in the specification or in supporting contract language. We also engage subject matter experts, either on the product itself or any specific substance or chemical. As I mentioned before, we also review the third-party certifications to identify where toxics and hazardous chemicals are addressed by those certifications. And during the market assessment, we review the product labels and data sheets to see if anything that's not covered by a third-party certification, or if there's a slightly more strict level of like that chemical that's allowed under a state policy, if that's something that a purchaser can easily verify when they are doing their product selection. So starting with cleaning chemicals, and I do want to note that the criteria that I have listed here, I only focused on the ones that address chemicals and toxic substances, but there are other criteria for these, but I just wanted to streamline. But so for cleaning chemicals, we require that they are certified by either Green Seal, UL Eco Logo, or the EPA's Safer Choice. And Green Seal requires that any cleaning product cannot have any chemicals that have a reproductive, carcinogenic, or mutagenic effects. So these are things that are like on the California Prop 65 list. They also cannot contain any asthmagens, which are things like odor control enzymes or formaldehyde or like quats or quaternary ammonium compounds that are used in disinfectants. They cannot have any ozone depleting compounds such as chlorofluorocarbons, which are typically used in aerosols as propellants. And they also cannot contain any endocrine disruptors such as PFAS, phthalates, and heavy metals. They also set restrictions on VOCs, which are known to cause respiratory issues as well as skin and eye irritations and things like that, and can also lead to certain cancers and neurological problems from long-term exposures. And Green Seal also addresses chemicals not only in the cleaning product itself, but in the packaging that it comes in to ensure that there are no exposures to these throughout the entire product. We see very similar requirements from UL Eco Logo. They just kind of outline it in a slightly different way. So rather than saying that there can't be any chemicals that are carcinogenic or mutagenic or have reproductive effects, they say specifically that there can't be any chemicals that are on the EU REACH or the California Prop 65 lists. They state that chemicals cannot have any skin or respiratory sensitization or acute and repeated exposure effects, so things like VOCs. And they also list a full suite of different chemical and substances that can't be included in the cleaning product, such as heavy metals, antimicrobial compounds, solvents, PFAS, asthmagens, and so on. So the EPA Safer Choice, again, is very similar. They set that ready-to-use products have to be non-corrosive, so meaning that they have to have a safe pH level, which they set at a pH of 2 to 11.5, cannot contain ozone-depleting substances, limited VOCs, as well as chemicals with the reproductive, carcinogenic, mutagenic effects. And they also apply these restrictions to their packaging. In addition to being certified by one of these entities, all of the cleaning chemicals that are considered Green New York compliant cannot be labeled with a US EPA registration number, meaning that it cannot contain any pesticides that destroy inactivate bacteria or bacterial spores, fungi or fungal spores, and viruses. And so we are addressing this not only by saying that it can't have a registration number on it, it also can't be labeled as antibacterial, antimicrobial, disinfecting or sanitizing, or make any of those claims. I do want to note, though, that we are in the process of doing the sanitizing and disinfectant products specifications, but for cleaning products, they are the non-disinfecting cleaning products. Also, as an additional step to ensure user safety, we are setting requirements for concentrated products, stating that they must either be available with a controlled dose dispensing system, meaning that the concentrated product is diluted to a safe level, all automatedly, so someone's not standing there and mixing things together. It also must be in spill-resistant packaging or in a portion control package or formulation. So meaning it could be in an individual packet or in like a tablet form. We're also encouraging that the products be fragrance-free to prevent allergic reactions or adverse reactions from individuals that are sensitive to fragrances, which can result in headaches or respiratory issues. We're also encouraging that the products be compliant with California's Cleaning Product Right to Know Act, which requires manufacturers to disclose all ingredients in the cleaning product and not just active ingredients. And so these two criteria are not required to be considered Green New York compliant, but we are strongly encouraging purchasers to look for them. So there is one New York State policy that we had to address through contract language, and that is the New York State law on the distribution and sale of household cleaning products, specifically that it prohibits the distribution and sale of cleaning products that contain certain levels of 1,4-dioxane and phosphorus. And so we decided to address this through supporting contract language, since the concentrations of these substances are not always readily available on the product sheets or on the vendor websites. And the levels that are allowable by the third-party certifications, like Green Seal, Eco Logo, and Safer Choice, vary from certification to certification, but also that they were set at slightly higher levels than what was considered allowable under the New York State law. So another example, and something that a lot of people may not think of as a opportunity to address toxics, is in disposable gloves. And so we are saying that in order to be Green New York compliant, a disposable glove cannot be made of vinyl or polyvinyl chloride due to the carcinogenic ingredients that go into making PVC. And we're also saying that it cannot be made of latex due to known allergies to latex. For the additional desirable attributes, we're also encouraging that gloves be fragrance-free, again, for allergic reactions, as well as lotion and powder-free, which can create rashes or cracked and dry, itchy skin. And we were able to include these criteria in the specification itself, so the minimum requirements and the additional desirable attributes, since these are things that are easy for purchasers to verify. And especially, gloves that have lotions or powders or fragrances, those are usually advertised as beneficial or desirable attributes of the product. So that's usually disclosed when it is present. Another example of how we address toxics is in the paper products. So this includes things like hand towels, paper napkins, facial tissue, toilet paper, and they are required to either be certified by Green Seal or Eco Logo, which sets similar requirements as we saw with the cleaning products, but slightly different for paper products. So like the cleaning chemicals, they cannot have any ingredients that have reproductive, carcinogenic, or mutagenic effects. But also for paper products, this is for Green Seal specifically, they must be processed chlorine-free or be totally chlorine-free. So processed chlorine-free means that when using recycled paper pulp, they're not adding any chlorine in the remanufacturing process, but there may be chlorine present in the fiber that is going into the product. And then totally chlorine-free can apply to virgin paper products and recycled products, meaning that there's no chlorine in the product at all. Green Seal also requires that paper products do not have any fragrances. They're also required to not have heavy metals such as lead, chromium, and selenium, which are known to have reproductive and endocrine disrupting effects. And they also are required to not contain any chlorophenolic or biocides or ozone depleting substances such as chlorofluorocarbons. And chlorophenolic biocides are pesticides that are used to control pests and preserve wood, like inhibiting fungal growth in the trees that are used to make the paper. There's also similar requirements from Eco Logo. They have a slight difference where they allow products to be elemental chlorine-free, which means that they can use chlorine dioxide, which is less corrosive than elemental chlorine, and it is less likely to degrade into harmful dioxins, but it can still happen under certain conditions. And then also that it can be total chlorine-free. They also do not allow any chemicals with the GHS hazard statements, such as those that are suspected to cause cancer or have allergic skin reactions, cause inheritable genetic damage, or can result in toxicity to aquatic life. Cannot contain formaldehyde, which is commonly used as a preservative. And they also set restrictions for substances that can have oral and dermal effects, and no skin sensitizers, irritants, or eye irritants. So these are going to be things like fragrances. Great. Moving on to how we're addressing toxics in electronics. We're setting the requirements that they must be certified by either EPEAT at the silver level or higher, or be TCO certified. The EPEAT silver criteria requires that electronics cannot have any ROS listed substances. These are things like heavy metals, polybrominated flame retardants, and phthalates. They also require that it meets the EU battery directive, which limits heavy metals in batteries and sets standards for battery recycling and disposal. They also require that any light sources in computers, displays, or printers be mercury-free, so prioritizing LEDs there, as well as setting limits to bromine and chlorine. So this is going to be the flame retardants used in any plastic parts. And for EPEAT silver, they also require that the product meets 50% of the optional criteria, which can include not containing any substances from the EU REACH list or the candidate list. Could also mean that they have to perform an in-depth chemical assessment and disclose a substance inventory for all parts of the product. And they also must perform an assessment and restrict fluorinated greenhouse gas emissions during the manufacturing process. There are similar requirements for the TCO certification. This also includes product packaging. So the product and packaging cannot contain heavy metals such as cadmium and mercury. They cannot contain halogenated and non-halogenated substances such as flame retardants and plasticizers, which are known to have some reproductive and carcinogenic effects and endocrine disrupting effects. And they also set requirements for e-waste recovery. So a certain percentage of products must be covered by an e-waste recovery program, and those products must be sent to a certified e-waste recycler. In addition to those minimum requirements, we're encouraging that the electronics that you buy have additional certifications like the EPEAT Climate Plus certification, which sets elevated climate mitigation standards for greenhouse gas reductions and energy efficiency during the manufacturing process, but also energy efficiency during product use. And similarly with TCO Certified Edge, this sets additional criteria for e-waste compensation, meaning that for any product that is manufactured by the company, they are recovering an equivalent amount of e-waste from elsewhere in the world. This also requires that displays are halogen-free, so not having those types of flame retardants, and they also set some recycled content requirements. And then the EPA's Energy Star Most Efficient program is a list of the most efficient products for that product category. So we're encouraging that any electronics that are being purchased are those that are on that list. So one of the New York State policies that we couldn't address directly in the specification is the Electronic Equipment for Recycling and Reuse Act. This was addressed through contract language since it is an attribute of the product itself, but this requires manufacturers to accept electronic waste for recycling or reuse. And so we are including this as contract language to encourage state contract managers to require that vendors provide an electronics take-back and recycling program. Additionally, in New York State, there is an organohalogen flame retardant restriction law. This applies to computers and monitors only. And this prohibits vendors from selling electronic displays that contain intentionally added organohalogen flame retardants. And we're addressing this through contract language since this information is not always readily available on the vendor or manufacturer website. And the allowable levels for organohalogen flame retardants can vary between EPEAT and TCO. And I believe that there's a certain level of like parts per million that are allowed under those certifications, but the New York State policy sets it at absolute zero, which is why we're including it as kind of that first step that a vendor has to take when getting onto a state contract. They have to verify compliance with this. All right, last example before we open it up and provide some updates on where the product is or the project is heading. For de-icers or alternatives to road salt, we're requiring that they must either be certified by EPA's Safer Choice program or the Clear Roads Qualified Product List. So the criteria is the same for cleaning products as it is for de-icers under the Safer Choice program. But something to note here is that by setting the product to have a safe pH level, that really restricts corrosive chemicals that can be used in de-icers, and it cannot contain chemicals that have reproductive, developmental, and carcinogenic effects, which we don't want going out into the environment or exposed to the user. So clear roads requires very specific criteria for all of the de-icers and road salt products. All of their products that are certified must include a corrosion inhibitor or be inherently made of a non-corrosive medium, such as calcium magnesium acetate. And they also set allowable level limits for phosphorus, which can lead to algal blooms when it washes off the roadside and into surrounding bodies of water. They set limits for other things like cyanide, which can result in heart, brain, and nerve damage, but it's added to be an anti-caking agent for the de-icers. They also set limits for arsenic, which can be added to lower the freezing temperature for water. So even though it's below 32 degrees outside, the water will still be in liquid form on the road. All right. So in addition to having one of these certifications, de-icers are encouraged to possess an environmental or health product declaration, which is a transparent means for the company to disclose and communicate any environmental or health impacts of a product throughout an entire life cycle. We're also encouraging that it be free of sodium chloride, which is extremely corrosive to metals and can impact our infrastructure and vehicles. And we're also encouraging an even lower level of phosphorus to reduce the effects of the surrounding waterways. All right. Looking ahead, last quarter we had 5 specifications that received tentative approval from the Green New York Council. This includes, carpet extraction equipment or carpet cleaners, floor scrubbing equipment, and compostable bioplastic organic waste bags, as well as a handful of office supplies like toner and ink, and batteries and battery chargers. And we're currently working on 13 specifications, which are more janitorial supplies, as well as things like envelopes, lighting equipment, cleaning brushes, and other products. But as I mentioned earlier, there are over 100 Green New York specifications. And so we still have a lot of work to do, but we're going to be addressing the standards and criteria for things like appliances, like washing machines and refrigerators, as well as fixtures like light switches, hand dryers and drinking fountains, furniture and flooring, including carpeting and hard floors, food service ware, and vehicle maintenance. So not only the products that go into maintaining the vehicle, but also things that are used on the roadways, as well as services like printing services, dry cleaning services, and other things like that. All right. So after that, I just want to say thank you so much for attending and listening. We're excited to continue our work on this, and you can visit the New York State Office of General Services website to see the Green New York specifications, or shoot me an email if you have any thing you want to discuss. But I believe we have some time for questions. So Michaela, I will turn it back to you.
Great. Yeah, so if anyone has any questions for Delaney.
We do have one question in the chat. Can Delaney speak to whether the battery standard for EPEAT silver touches on embedded, non-removable batteries and devices?
I want to say it does, but that's something that I would have to go back and verify. But if you shoot me an email, I can get a response to you.
Great, thank you.
Alicia, do you have any information on that?
Yeah, I just looked it up when I saw the question in there. Removal of lithium-ion batteries is an optional criterion EPEAT. And so if something is EPEAT silver, it has a certain number of optional criteria that are met, but it isn't necessarily that one. So if somebody wanted to require that, you would need to put that into additional contract language to, if you wanted only those products onto your contract. We decided not to call out individual optional criteria just because some people might want more energy efficiency. Some people might want specific toxics reductions. So just encouraging people to look for those criteria that you want if they're not required.
Great, thank you. Jose, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Julia. So I got a question for Delaney. I was wondering, I know you covered a couple of different product categories through the presentation you made that New York is addressing. Is there any, are there any talks about expanding to other product categories?
Yeah, we are looking into creating new specifications for products that weren't previously covered. We're prioritizing those that had existing specs to update those and bring them, into date. But as we go along, if we see something that is being purchased widely by New York State and can have an impact by setting environmentally preferable standards for, that is something that we're planning to address.
Excellent. That's great to hear. The reason why I ask is because I know I'm with the Center for Environmental Health, and I know we worked with you guys with New York State several years ago now on kind of overviewing or doing a revamp of your furniture and flooring specifications. And there have been some new developments in that in the field in the area there. So if those are ever up for review, we would love to connect with you.
Yeah, that would be great. We're currently working on the furniture specification, and we're hoping to do flooring and carpeting next quarter. So that is exciting to hear. That is something that you guys
Awesome.
are interested in, and we'd love to work with you on that.
Yeah, I'll connect with you offline. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Jose.
Neat. We have a question in the chat. Is there an easy link where we can find the list of New York policy statutes that led to these specifications?
Yes, Alicia, if you could provide a link in the chat to the New York State Executive Order 22. And then we also have an ongoing list of the policies that have been addressed in the specifications we've updated so far. But that's going to be growing as we address more and more of the specifications.
Yep, I'll do that. I was just looking for that. So I will add it to the chat. I'm on it.
Perfect. Thank you.
I have a question. And first, I just want to say this is so fantastic, right? Every state, we're all in different levels of trying to figure out our specifications and sort of the framework that we work on. So this is so super helpful for us personally. We will be taking this back and just discussing this internally. But my question is, you guys are updating these specs. Do you have to go out for public comment? I know you said that you are having the departments come in and provide, recommendations and their thoughts about stuff, which I love that piece of it, which is super important. But is this like a whole public comment process as well?
Yeah, so for some of the specifications, if there were significant changes to the existing spec, then it does have to go back out for public comment. And so I kind of mentioned it earlier with like the tentative approval process. If a spec is tentatively approved, then it has a 3-month public comment period before the Green New York Council gives it final approval. But if there are any existing specs that we update, that there are only like minor changes to, then it can just receive that final vote again. But in addition to the existing specs, any new specifications that we're introducing, those do have to go out for public comment.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions? This is just jam-packed with stuff. I love it. We had a really great turnout today. I think that lots of folks are really interested to see what you guys are doing and putting together as a model. Any other questions here? We've got a couple more minutes. I guess I have another question. Why are you putting furniture and flooring together? Why is it not two separate things?
So they will be separate specifications. I
Okay.
guess I should have clarified that, but we're just planning on updating those two specs at similar time.
I see. Got it. Okay, great. Yeah, we're very interested in what's happening with luxury vinyl tile. Hot topic.
Yes.
Jose knows, Alicia knows, talked to you
Oh,
guys
yes.
a lot in detail about this. And I had a really great conversation with the Harvard University about it too. So I'm happy to share all of the information that I found from them as well. But
Yeah, that would be great.
we're very interested in this because we're really interested in banning vinyl if we can. It's hard, but it's trying to get all the information from it. And I also just want to say, I really love the process that you guys are going through with the market analysis, the market assessment. And Alicia was telling me that you guys were sort of standardizing this process. And I couldn't say more about that process and how important it is. Can you just go to that slide? I just want to sort of reiterate again that it is so important. And I think maybe with other states, the big issue is having the time to be able to do this, and the time and the staff to be able to do this, or the money to be able to contract it out, right? And I know that there's just like lots of limits on some of those things. So the fact that you guys are going through this process with all of these products, you guys are doing the work for a lot of us, and we really applaud you on that. Yes, Alicia.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that one of the things that we've talked about is multi-state approaches to this. We really look at the work that you did, Julia, with bringing in New York and other states on the green cleaning supplies contract. And so this is one thing we've talked about is there may be other states that have done research on a specific product or specification and may want to collaborate on developing specs. So I think it would be great to have that kind of at least informal input into the specifications that are, being updated under this project, because it is a lot of work, especially the market assessments and the cost comparisons and everything. Maybe there's a way, even on the benchmarking assessment, we could have some kind of document where if you have worked on a spec, we don't have to like search around for it, that you could just like, let us know if you have a spec that's relatively new, because I think it is a huge amount of work to go through all this, but we do want to make sure the specs are aspirational, they're practical, they're easy to use, that we're not missing anything. So if you can think of ways to collaborate across states on this, it would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really good point. I think the sort of cooperative contracting piece of it, like we did with the cleaning products with a whole bunch of the northeastern states and others, actually, not just in the Northeast, was fantastic to kind of use this approach, together. Um, Sometimes it can be tricky, as all of you procurement folks out there know, that it's that time frame, and when one state is ready and the other is not, and the period of when they're going to be transitioning to their new contract, and that's always what's sort of tripped us up a little bit in collaborating, is that some of the other states they're in the middle of their contract, so they're not ready. So but whenever there are opportunities, I think we really should be trying to work together. I know Massachusetts is very interested in working with others. We have some issues because we're a best value state, and we're not required to, gosh, I always forget the term. Alicia, help me. You know this, but we're not required. We just are best value. We don't have to take low bid,
Right.
and we also there can't be a bid protest. That's the word I always forget.
Right.
There we don't allow bid protests, right? So if you're a state that does have bid protests, it makes it a little bit more difficult.
Well, the point that you're making, Julia, is that contracts are kind of like trains that are moving, and people have to be ready to get on the train. But what this process does is it says, hey, let's develop the specifications in advance. So whenever you need them for a bid solicitation or a single contract, for an agency, or even, for procurement of individual products, those specifications are ready for people to use. And I know New York is really, working on that. There's been a lot of questions that have come up. Okay, we have the specs. Now, how do they get integrated into those contracts, right? And so there's a lot of behind the scenes work to try to figure out, how do we label the products that are on the contracts that meet these Green New York compliant specifications, because actually in New York, there are reporting requirements for Green New York compliance. We're also doing a companion project that's funded by NASPO, the National Association of State Procurement Officials, to help the preferred sources, industries for the blind and disabled, to be able to identify their products that meet these new updated specifications. So I would just say the collaboration on the multi-state contract is one place to collaborate, but if that is having its challenges, collaborating on the spec development would not have that. I know people are so busy, they want to work on the thing that's up right now, but this could save people time in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. So we should talk just we're sort of more focused on just the toxics piece of this, and this is like way beyond, just the toxics piece. And I think we'll just, within our group, we'll talk about how can we, develop resources to share this stuff, and collaborate together. Excellent. Any other thoughts, ideas, questions? Anything else? We have 2 more minutes. No?
Yes,
Well,
I will
yeah.
just say one opportunity, I guess, for us to kind of facilitate that continuing collaboration. Once we have the schedules kind of figured out each quarter, we could share, with you or with this group, what specifications we're planning to tackle. And so if there are opportunities there, we would love to make that happen.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Delaney. This was incredible. And so the recording will be shared, the presentation. It'll be posted, right, Michaela, on our website?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So that you can go back and share with others or take pieces of it. So thank you very much. This is just really I'm so excited about this project and what you guys are doing. And thanks, Alicia, also for telling me about this and all the work that you guys are doing together. It's really fantastic.